Sometimes it comes out, my inner self. In the moment, I felt really bad. I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, no, you're not. You're not sorry. We were laughing so hard. It was one of those laughs where like our stomachs hurt, you know? It's good stuff. It's good stuff. And then, like last night, he's like, you want one of those gummies again? I go, nope. See, I'm getting smart. I'm learning. I'm growing up. Anyway, do you have a question that I could answer? Is it for Matt? Because I could try that.
No,
okay.
You can totally answer this. I'm not mean-mugging, I just have the light in my eyes, so sorry if I...
No worries.
So my question is, what do you remember of your first convention, either if it was JIB or not, and how was it?
I remember it so clearly, and here's why. The episode that I was in called The Real Ghostbusters, which takes place at a convention, I had shot that already, and I had never been to a convention. So my first convention was in Chicago, and it was the night before or the night after that it aired on TV. And it was so weird because that aired, and my character, Chuck, comes on a stage, nervous, like drinking a bottle of water, kind of shaking, real nervous in front of people. And then here I am, I come out in Chicago, and I'm nervous, I got a bottle of water, and it's like, it's really happening. It was the weirdest thing where I was like, what is real, what's fiction, you know? So I just remember so much that moment. But what was different was, and then I couldn't help but highlight the differences, you know, like, well, there are a lot fewer men in the audience, and the audience was such a good crowd. Like, it was like right away I learned that, oh, wow, these panels are actually very friendly. You know, you as a performer, I used to do stand-up comedy, and you go out and you don't know what to expect from an audience, right? Sometimes they're with you and it's the best night ever. Sometimes they're not with you and it's the worst. And so you go out kind of expecting the worst. You're like, oh, this could be... And it's funny because now when we have new actors come on the tour with us, they're nervous. They're nervous before the panel, and you're like, it's the best audience in the world. Like, they're all with you, you know? And so that was my first big lesson, was like, I really felt like Chuck in that moment, and I was really, you know, nervous and neurotic and scared, and then the audience was so nice, you know, that it was like, it really calmed my nerves, and it was like the best moment ever, you know? And I've been going ever since. But that was like 2009, I think, in Chicago.
So your first convention was the fake convention?
My first convention was the fake convention, exactly. And there was cameras there, and I had lines to say. But yeah, and then right after that, I was in Chicago doing that same thing. So bizarre.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Hi. For me, the music is something really important in the movie. Like, they make around the scene. So I was wondering, what is your favorite soundtrack coming from a movie, or a song that reminds you of a particular movie? Like you say, oh yeah, I love that song.
Oh yeah.
That movie.
There's so many. I love good soundtracks. I love when they pick. Like, soundtrack as opposed to score, which I also like. A score of a movie is amazing, you know. I think all the Christopher Nolan movies have such great scores, you know, and it's under the whole thing is just like, you know. Or Dune, I saw Dune 2, and like the score is amazing, it's all part of it. But I also, my favorite thing is like movies that have a great soundtrack, that have a great songs you go back and listen to. And so, you know, some of my favorites are like Rushmore. The Wes Anderson movie Rushmore is a great soundtrack. High Fidelity, the movie High Fidelity, also from the 90s with John Cusack, is a great soundtrack. You know, soundtracks that feel like a mixtape, you know, that you want to like listen to, and it reminds you of the movie. Wes Anderson has a couple. Wes Anderson, the movie Life Aquatic. They have like a lot of David Bowie songs, and they have that Brazilian artist that's covering David Bowie. That's really great, and it reminds me of that movie. It reminds me of, like, you know, Wes Anderson's movies. They conjure up a certain feel, and it just I really love his movies, and so it kind of takes me back to that. I'm trying to think if there's one, like a song in particular, reminds me of a moment, reminds me of a movie. I know there are. I'm just trying to think what it would be. There's a great scene in the movie Reality Bites, also from the 90s. There's a great scene where where it's My Sharona. And it was one of those things where, like, My Sharona is a song from the 80s, right? My Sharona. But you kind of hadn't listened to it in 10 years. And then it shows up in this movie and you're like, that's a great fucking song, you know? So that's a good one. Okay, you're welcome. It's weird, sometimes they like, some of the soundtracks, you can't get all the songs on, like they don't release them anymore as a soundtrack because of maybe copyrights or something. It used to be like you could go to the CD store and you buy a soundtrack, and it's harder to get them sometimes on iTunes, so I have to make my own playlist that it's the soundtrack of the movie. I do that a lot. I'm really into playlists. I think I'd be a DJ if I wasn't an actor. Hi.
Hi.
So far, so good.
It's just, my question was also about like the real Ghostbusters.
Oh, really?
Like your first convention, like the differences.
No way.
No, I don't really have a question.
Well,
But
there are
just-
other differences, like nobody died.
Yeah, true.
That was a big one. And yeah, no one was dressed like the Scarecrow. Anyway.
But I think that was a great episode. And also, I remember the first time I watched the show, my dad just dropped in when I was watching your first episode, and he really liked it. And so he just wanted me to tell you when you were in one episode, and he would just come and watch it. And back then you were in like 6 or 7 episodes out of 200. And he had seen like those 5 episodes, and he would tell people that he had seen the show, and I was like, not really. So, like,
Yeah.
but you're like his favorite.
Oh,
so I
that's
didn't
nice.
really want to watch season 15 because
Yeah.
it was sad that you were like.
Yeah.
that guy.
Oh, that's.
But I think you did a great job. In
Thank
season
you.
15.
Oh, I'm sorry about the term. Yeah, it's funny, you know, people who don't know this world and don't know Supernatural, I'll be like, yeah, we go to these conventions and been doing them since 2009, and it's great. People are so excited about it and everything, and they're like, wow, how many episodes were there? I'll be like, 326, and they're like, and how many were you in? And I'm like, 20.
And you're probably one of the like
And I'm-
side characters that were like the most episodes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little bit, I mean, there's like, Jim Beaver
Yeah.
and Mark Shepard and, Ruth.
Yeah.
But yeah, then I'm pretty close to that. It's, not a lot of us were in a lot. I mean, Matt was in, what, 2 or 3?
Yeah, I think 3.
Yeah, but it's just, that's the phenomenon that is Supernatural. And yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we played parts that were impactful.
Yeah. I think it was one of my favorite parts in my first convention was seeing like how excited people were even about like, like kind of like minor actors from
Yeah.
the show, like Matt or like you, Rich. Like it was, I don't know, I really loved to see that.
Yeah.
I don't know, I thought it was really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, it's nice, and it's cool because it's the conventions have become a show of their own almost. You know what I mean? I have a bigger part in the conventions than I do in the show. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I'm very fortunate, to be able to be relevant. That's why I was excited about season 15. It was nice just to be a part of it as it ended. The fact that my character ended it wasn't great, but it was nice to feel relevant in that world again.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you very much. I always love seeing you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi. I love the story about the TV show Splitsville and you being recast as
Yes.
yourself.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you could recast Rich in a show about his life, who would that
Who would I cast to play Rich in a show? So just a real quick, in the podcast that Rich and I do, the personal one called Kings of Con podcast, which if you haven't heard, give it a listen. It's fun. We're totally off the cuff, and really it's basically you're listening to a conversation he and I are having for an hour. It's pretty raw and off the cuff and very funny, and Rich obviously is hilarious. But I told a real quick story about how my best friends wrote a TV show that got picked up for a pilot, And the leads of the show were the two of them, because in real life they had been partners and they broke up. And so it's about how they continued to work together despite the fact they were exes. And then everyone around them. So it was like the lead characters were the two of them, my friends Mark and Abby, and then my best friend Paul, and me, Rob, named Rob in the show, and my wife at the time, whose name was Molly. Those were the leads of the show. So we all, as actors, we go into, I auditioned to play Rob, to play myself, and Paul goes into audition for Paul. Anyway, so I got in front of the network. Back in the day, you'd go through several rounds of auditions, and then the last round is you'd go in front of the heads of the network, the heads of Fox in this case. So they're all like lined up, and you do your audition in front of them, and I didn't get the role because they said I wasn't good looking enough to play myself. But my best friend Paul auditioned to play Paul and got the part. So it's a great Hollywood story that stuck with me. So if there was a show about Richard Speight and Rich didn't get the role, who would play Rich? Well, that's obvious. Me.
Thank you.
Yeah. What? Huh? I heard that with my bad ear. We're saying that Rich, the funny thing about Rich is he speaks in these colloquialisms. So like all these sayings from Nashville that I don't even understand, much less an audience that English isn't your first language. So he'll say things like shooting fish in a barrel or whatever, and it's like a saying like that no one else is going to understand. And then you'll go, they may not know what that means, and then he'll say another one to explain what that one means. You know what I mean? It's like catching a greased up pig with a feather. Something like that doesn't make much sense to you, you know what I mean? Like drinking a beer with a bottle of whiskey. I don't even know what that means. Yeah, it's like riding a horse with a stool. What? Anyway, he's a fun one. Yes. Hi.
I presume you're a Radiohead fan?
Big
Am I
time.
right?
Big time.
Me too.
Oh, great.
What's your favorite song?
Oh man, overall Radiohead catalog. It's funny. I think about this. I've gotten my son into Radiohead. My son is 20 now, and he this was like 2 years ago. He texted me and he's like, Dad, I really started listening to this band Radiohead, and I know you like them, and they're pretty great. I'd love to hear more stuff by them. I was like, this is the best text I've ever gotten in my life. I literally took a screen cap of it and saved it. Yeah, I was like, this is awesome. So I made him this playlist. So he loves Radiohead, and he and I talked about like, what would you say is your favorite? It changes for me. Up there would be like Weird Fishes, then some of the classics, Paranoid Android, Let Down I like a lot. But yeah, in Rainbows I love, Kid A I love. So yeah, what about you? What's your favorite?
Yeah, Kid A is actually my favorite album.
Yeah.
But my favorite songs are Fake Plastic Trees and True Low Weight.
Oh
They're
yeah.
my favorite.
Great songs. Yeah, you can't, for me, like, that's the one band I can listen to over and over. I love Pearl Jam, but sometimes I'm not in the mood for Pearl Jam, or I need to take a break, Radiohead, if I don't know what to listen to, because you drive a lot in LA, so I listen to music all the time, very loud, and I never get tired of listening to Radiohead. But yeah, both of those songs are beautiful songs, beautiful. I did a cover of Fake Plastic Trees.
Yes, I remember
Remember?
last year.
Yeah.
I noticed your T-shirt and I was like, okay.
Oh yeah. No, I love them. I'm a real.
Can I just ask you if you ever seen them live?
I have several times. Yeah, the first time I saw them live, I won the tickets on a radio program. So it was, they're like, if you're a Radiohead fan, call in, and at the time, I loved them, but I didn't know the names of their songs because the songs are such, Paranoid Android, subterranean homesick alien, like you don't remember the names. And the DJ was like, big radio fan. I'm like, huge. And he was like, all right, so what's your favorite song? And I was like, Creep. And I was like the first thing, and he was like, oh man, come on, everyone knows Creep. But he gave me the tickets anyway, so I saw them and I won the tickets. And then I saw them again that same year at the end of that tour. It was the OK Computer tour, and it was I won the tickets again on a different radio station. I've never been so lucky ever. Never won anything like that. So that was pretty cool. Have you seen them?
Yeah, just once.
So
Because
good.
they were in Italy in 2016, and that's it.
Which tour was that? Which tour was that? What album was that supporting?
It was the latest A Moon-Shaped Pool.
Moon-Shaped Pool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the last one. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope they make another album. Do you like The Smile?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I seen Tom York a lot of years ago, solo.
Oh, good.
It was mind-blowing.
Yeah, I love that. Same. And I really love The Smile. I'm really into that new album. Cool.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you. People often ask me, like, am I a fan? Do I fanboy over anything? And for me, it's bands, and I'm a big fanboy of Radiohead and also Pearl Jam. Like, member of the fan club. I buy, I got lots of like T-shirts and stuff, like too many. But yeah. Hi.
Hi, Rob. So, on the plane over, I watched Clear Mind for the second time.
You did?
Yes, the second time I watched it.
Awesome.
And I also watched, I'm a repeat movie watcher if I enjoy the movies, and I've also watched 30 Miles from Nowhere a few times.
Awesome.
But I wanted to ask you regarding those movies, because I love them so much, but I just feel like they're so not you. I don't know how to
They aren't
explain
you,
how
yeah.
I feel. But what was your experience? How did you get into character, or what did you do to be so good in both those movies?
That's, first of all, so sweet, and that's cool that you watch both these movies. They're two independent movies I've done over the last 5 or 6 years that are both really, sometimes you do an indie movie and you don't know, maybe sometimes nobody sees it or it's not very good, but these are really good little independent movies. They're kind of horror, I don't know, not slasher horror, but more like,
More thrillery.
Yeah. Yeah, and but both of them were produced and written by an old college friend of mine, Shauna Kofed, who's in both of those movies. So they both, you can find them. They're on like Prime Video. They're on American Airlines. They're playing. Anyway, so for the first one, she was like, I've written the script. I want you to be in it. What part do you want to play? And I thought, there's the character in 30 Miles from Nowhere that's like, the character that's a little bit more like me. This like, guys, this is crazy. What are we doing? We can't. And then there's this guy that's a real asshole, like a real dick, a jerk. And at the time, it was before season 15. It was more around season 11, and I was like, I want to play the dick. That's not something I normally do. Ever since I played that part, that's all I play. But I thought I wanted to be the asshole because I don't really get to play that a lot. So that was, and it's the same thing as Chuck in season 15 and really every other, the killer in Law and Order I just played. Like I kind of channel that Jensen and I were talking about yesterday. It's like that douchebag that but you are not. But you almost you can put that. I don't know. It's just weird. Like as an actor, that's what's so great. It's like someone gives you the keys to a car that you'd never drive, but you could experience what that's like to drive that car, and no one's mad at you about it. You know what I mean? So you kind of get this freedom and like being this kind of person that you'd never be, and trying it on for size. I remember in season 15, I say the worst things, awful things to Sam and Dean, and and then afterwards we're laughing and having a beer, but it was like freeing in a way to like, nothing's gonna happen to me, and that was almost fueled this Chuck character, like, oh God, nothing's gonna happen to me, it's that same kind of vibe. So that was that one, and then, the other one, she didn't give me a choice. She was like, this is the character I want you to play, and just like, I don't know, it's like with any role, it's like I don't even know if I would have auditioned to play that role, but but she's like, this is what you're playing, and so it's almost an acting exercise, like finding out who this guy is. Again, it's like a guy that's not incredibly likable, and but I have a joy. You find a joy in playing that character because it's that freeing element. Like, all right, I'm going to play a character who dresses like this and acts like this, and is kind of a questionable dude, and taking life experiences of people I've met and things I've experienced and little bits of me, and kind of put that all in and hope that it's okay, And if it's not okay, you hope you have a good enough director to be like, hey, let's, do that different. But it worked out all right. I really know her really well too, so I know her writing and I know what she had in mind,
Thank you so much. That was fantastic. I'm sure I'll watch it again.
Oh, thank you so much. You're so sweet. Thank you. Hi.
You wrote a song with Jensen years ago that we still haven't heard. I was wondering.
Yes. I've got to figure out a way to just put those out. I mean, I think I can do it. But yeah, I have a recording of it. He doesn't sing on the record. We've written 2 songs together. One of them's on a Loud and Swain album. And then we wrote another song that no one's ever heard that I've got, that we wrote in season 15. And the idea, so the Loud and Swain, there's a song we wrote on the Loud and Swain record that is that we wrote in season 11 when we just would hang out in his trailer after work or whatever. That's something affair. Anyway, and then in season 15 we wrote the song, and the idea was it was going to be a song that maybe they'd play at the season finale of Supernatural. And it just was one of those things where it was great, we wrote it, it was this magical moment, we both loved it, and then life got too busy, and there were so many, COVID happened. Oh. And then, so after COVID, we were all just like, we couldn't, it was just too late. But I went ahead and recorded a demo of it, and it's a really good song, and it's called like A Hero, something about a hero, but yeah, it's really great. So at some point, I gotta figure out how to just release music. I don't want people to pay for it, I just want you to hear it.
You could do it as a donation to random acts,
Okay.
There's a song with Rihanna that they did for random acts, just the one-off.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. If I could get him to sing on it, that would be even better.
maybe that is motivation enough to do it for charity.
Yeah. Okay. I'll work on that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for remembering. I forgot myself.